So let's make a little save. The brief lull of the past 2 days has offered is nice while it lasted. Or as nice as it can be with worries of Isabella's whereabouts creeping up on me every now and then. She hasn't shown up after the last talk we had in the hallway. And the dinner I've bought had since been given to a different neighbor before it spoils. By all means, it shouldn't be anything to lose sleep over. She's gone on work trips before, usually for a day or two. This might simply be one of those, although it's often with a message saying exactly where. This dour note she had at the end of our last chat with that nose.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things are starting to settle back into a steady rhythm, finally worms its way back into my routine. Thursday morning brings further disturbances in now calm waters. A little ceremony, although still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. Luxembourg is a small city, relatively speaking, compared to, say, London or Glasgow. It's nothing but a tiny mass of land floating in a boasting a mere population of 68,000. But those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when standing on a busy street. And if you pay a close enough attention, faces taking the crosswalk or riding the subway soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number, it had to be a T.O. fucking Luke. I've counted more than once.
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow. Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course. I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble, but darling wife insisted. Who am I to say no?
Ah, are you kidding me?
His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall. In spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered around the corridor of the primary career day. It's not that he stands out. He's pretty unremarkable at first glance, frankly. However, his countenance draws people's eyes to him. The manner he carries himself with, and all the confidence in the world, his mere presence is dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet that he's also enjoying the attention this garners, especially the ones that come from.
What an ass.
A single glance at him, I know immediately that one way or another, if we're ever going to bump into each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He also exudes that air, sort that makes you want to run him over with a lorry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. With him, it's either you want to punch him or let yourself be charmed. There's no in between. I'm glad to do the honor of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now I'm stuck with having to face one of the two.
I shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out sounded like a good idea. I have no classes left today until after lunch. I could have opted to stay at the teacher's lounge and work on my lessons plan, but that would have mean being left alone with our deputy head and his chatter. He's a good man, but Crivens, I guess that's the word, Crivens? He can talk anyone's ear off. So the moment the opportunity arose, I jump on it. It's a simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event and maybe stand around and assist if time allows. I wasn't expecting him to show up there. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have simply stayed and suffered through our deputy's impromptu speech about a life crisis instead. But what's done is done. Going back to is sort of also out of the question. But how unexpectedly heavy the load is I'm carrying, I hate to lug this for the trip back just because my pride can't take another second of interaction with the guy. He's insufferable, alright, but I've had my fair share of dealing with teens of more or less the same temperament, and all considerably younger than him, and they listened. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it, but he can bet his sorry English ass I'm not gonna stand down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself and suck in a breath. Mustering every bit of patience I have, I step into the hall. My grip on the box tightens as I pull it closer to me, attempting to assume a low-key air as I amble towards the room. Becca's doing me in, guys. There's a lot of reading. The box is big enough to hide my face. It's not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled to the top. But if all else fails, I can just hit him with it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's even one listening out there, please grant me enough restraint. Better yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. That'll definitely make my life easier. Seriously, how hard can it be? He's standing a few ways down from the door, and there are plenty of people between us to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand the stupid box to whoever's in charge, or forget the plan to stay in longer than necessary and step out as soon as I can. Easy as pie. But as luck would have it, that exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone barrels towards me. She latches onto my waist before topping the sudden commotion of with a gleeful squeal.
I knew it's you!
God damn it, Kylie. Why would you do this to me, Kylie? I tried to help you, child. The force nearly throws me off balance, sending the item stack atop the box, tilting dangerously to the side. The child's added weight to my waist and pinning me on the spot. Both my hands are occupied. Watching is the only thing I'm able to do. The short seconds between a slow and eventually everything slides off the box's small surface. Under different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story some other time. Comical even. But another set of hands reaches out and steadies the posters, threatening to take a nosedive right to the floor. Careful now, Daisy. Don't make a mess. My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. But before my limbs could catch up with my brain and what my brain is currently screaming at me, he moves to take the burden off my arms. Irrational gives way to surprise, then confusion. It's in that moment when the instinct finally kicks in and I tug the box closer to me before he can fully lift it off.
What are you doing?
What does it look like? You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you? Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work? Ugh, so much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help. Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy? Having a bad day, aren't we?
Oh, you have no idea.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
Keeping my voice level throughout this is a miracle in itself. Regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't budge. Did what I have just said merely fly over his head? Were it my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? Surely, it shouldn't be that hard. I think he might be able to be a little touched in the head. I'd like to ask him that, actually, but Kylie chooses that instance to pipe in.
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Tio's strong. You can leave this to him. My papa does it lots of times, but I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Tio says it's
Confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Tio's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
I'm still of the opinion that he's a piece of shite, but I admit his goddaughter's excitement is contagious as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She has yet to budge from her place. She has yet to budge from her place, though, to be honest. I'm starting to lose some of the feeling in my stomach on how tightly she's wound her arms around it.
I'm sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but
You heard the kid.
no one's asking you.
You wound me, woman.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that.
I'm pretty sure he's sure she can do more damage than that, too.
Shall we give it a try?
No, I don't think you have to kick him in the balls again.
Again?
He pales and stammers a bit until he ultimately decides against saying anything and then settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks to the last time we met. His composure, when he finally regains some of his bearings, says it all. Nothing short of hilarious, if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy. Not in a million years, not ever.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
That too. I'm not scared of you. Just because you landed a hit.
Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear? I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburg police after you, woman.
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
He snatches it out of my arms before a single word of protest exits my mouth, and quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it in now, my prior irritation has already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Though I still have to ask.
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here? He's unusually nice today.
A far-fetched idea, I know, but it seems it's the only reason I can think of why the asshole is suddenly acting like a decent human. He's quite frankly far from being. First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good note. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent on his skull, as he so aptly put it. Why is he acting friendly 2 days later?
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
I quickly stomp out the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I'd want to be chummy with in this whole city, but Kylie doesn't need to know that.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
I could have done everyone a favor and choked on them. He could have done everyone a favor and choked on them while he was at it.
Do you want some? I've got more. I couldn't find Melody or Takako this morning, but I'm sure they'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mum, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at her words. The statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole trunk of memories from childhood, so eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinner alone, a number of days coming home to an empty house, growing with each passing year, and sometimes several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about it now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there. Familiar, though lessened by the years now. Beside me, Callie takes a step back, having gotten tired of clinging to me. There's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem too affected by it, in fact. Though it makes me wonder just how much of it is real, and how much of it is there to mask the loneliness, if there's even one. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of career day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You always are. But they asked that they asked your Tio to look after you for this?
Oh God! If I was a teacher, Rebecca's who I'd be. I'd have a heart. You asked the douche. I mean, they asked your uncle to look him for you, right? Yeah.
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today. Oh, that's supposed to be a secret, by the way. Oh, but I think it's a bit confusing because Tio said she also went shopping. That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama doesn't allow me to go out when I'm sick. It's still okay, though, since Tio always buys me sweets before we go home. I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large. Don't doubt the Kako, okay?
Listening to her like this is easy to picture where Kylie gets her fondness from the guy comes from. She's far from a demanding child unless you've made promises of some sort. She never forgets those. She'll make friends with anyone wherever she is. Buy her a few things and Viola, you're set. No wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. I can't say that the sentiment's the same for the latter, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic techniques.
But before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome. Like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
There's some sort of misguided logic there that I'd like to correct. But before I can say my piece, the douchebag steps in, fresh out of the commotion from the classroom behind us, and plowing into the conversation with every subtlety a wrecking ball has. No shite given, despite no one asking for his opinion.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
I don't?
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
Tia married you.
Kylie drops a statement without any sort of preface, and in the moment it lands, the douche finds himself grappling with the conversation.
Yeah, that's true, Munchkin.
He is kind of dead weight to his wife.
But it's not the same thing.
No, it kind of is. You are kind of dead weight. A small frown creases the girl's eyebrows as she tried to comprehend what her Tio's rather vague explanation. It's not surprising either when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before, on Ashton whenever he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase. Another second passes before the douche moves, kneeling in front of Kylie and placing his hands on either side of her shoulder. This is kind of the last word I'll ever use for this kind is the last word I'll ever use to describe this man, but in this minute, there's a smile on his face I can't place. Tender by all means, for someone who's as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see, if not a bit odd.
Listen here, sweetie. Tia was already a great person before she met me.
She is? But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
Well, Tia's much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions. And she's really, really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it. That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Yes, it does.
Oh, leagues, Munchkin. Way better than I'll ever be.
For some reason, I don't think he's still talking about his wife's mathematical prowess as his voice trails off. In fact, if I had not been paying close attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. The slight shift in his smile, from the way that is from one that's tender to one that's wistful, like remembering a memory he has always been fond of, but has often kept to himself. At that fleeting glance of it, a tiny, insignificant part of the world somehow also shifts. Opinions change, impressions move.
You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, Next time, I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore? If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since.
Another silence from him. Then, without missing a beat, he turns Callie around and slightly pats her on the shoulder, in a gesture to end their conversation right then and there, right here and there. Probably before he can say other things that he never intended to say, or a child is not meant to hear.
But off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
All right. But wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm gonna take you there later. I'll be back.
She soon disappears behind the crowd, none the wiser of the sudden change in mood around her. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone. The expression on his face grows less kind now, and there's no one to reassure. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. His head quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare in his eyes. Although it's less threatening now, considering what I've witnessed earlier. Funny how one's impression of someone can easily change the minute with that minute detail.
Why are you laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
Putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me. That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
I'll add another laugh. More to delay than to express any sort of amusement over the matter. In truth, I don't know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, and I might offend a man. He's childish enough for that, even if what I'm about to say are just mere honest observation. You're good at handling her. Ah well, regardless of how he reacts, it's not like it'll have an impact on anything between us. I have no plans of getting too friendly with the man, though he might have some good points. Emphasis on might. The best treatment I can hope myself is to give him is to stop thinking about him as a sleazy douche. Besides, after seeing that look on him, I figure someone like him can use a little compliment here and there. He probably doesn't get it much, considering how coarse he is with his own language can get.
Can't you act a wee bit polite for even a second of your life? It won't kill you. You'll easily get answers that way, you know? Instead of demanding things from people like a temperamental man-child.
I'll be nice when I want to be, woman. Don't tell me what to do.
And here I was just thinking how you're doing a brilliant job as Kylie's guardian. Was I mistaken?
Was I mistaken? What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop playing dumb. I hate to admit it, but you actually seem to be good with kids. Possibly even better than most of the teachers here. What do you know?
I expected him to just take it all in, bloat his ego even more, and even brag about it. Instead, what I get from him is the sound resembling a squawk. Or maybe it's him choking on his own pride. I can't tell above the hubbub surrounding us. But when I glance at him, only a mortified expression is on his face.
No.
No? You should be proud of yourself. At least there's this one good thing about you. Isn't that nice to hear? Pretty sure not a lot of compliments get thrown around about you, knowing how you are.
There are a lot of good things about me, Daisy. My hair, for one. There's also my extraordinary good looks. Wax lyrical about those all you want. I'd be happy to hear it any day. Praise anything about me but that.
What is so repulsive about it? Even Kylie likes you. Shouldn't that tell you anything about yourself?
Kylie only is one kid, not even my own. Trust me, you do not want to see me bring a spawn of my own into this world. This will be an abomination.
Is that what you keep telling yourself?
Maybe. Is it any of your business?
No. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is because you yourself think you're a little piece of shite and somehow it'll pass on. It doesn't work like that, by the way.
That last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards, or the kind of person I'm talking to, it's quite rude. An apology is already in my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I prepared myself to say dissipates. Lost in the moment in front of me. He has turned his gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings, blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in thought. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Soft, less severe than he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note to his voice when he finds it, the words muttered under his breath, not intending anyone to hear but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears in an unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All of that talk about self-worth makes some sense now. This is some profound knowledge he's pulling out of his hours. It has come about because he already has been there, likely stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier after all. Less room for mistakes and more of a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. Just when you thought you already had him figured out, he goes and he does one thing and says another. People like him are the most difficult to gauge, far harder to understand. Yet it might be exactly for this reason why some are so easily charmed by him. It is a mystery that catches them, of wanting to find out what's underneath all that bravado. I don't count myself among those yet. His winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea. But sometimes, once you get a glimpse of what's beyond the machismo, empathizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb. If the comfortable silence we now share tells anything, that is. Perhaps this is as close to friendship as we can get. Several insults flung around with a few shared silences between, and that's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we've had. Maybe it's for this reason I can't resist throwing a little compliment to lift his mood before leaving.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
No, he's totally a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm touched, Daisy.
Take it how you will, but a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Ah, bollocks. Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into a confused scowl, while I meet it with a matching perplexity. It has only been 2 days. Surely his memory isn't that bad.
What? When was this?
At the cafe, after you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite big, and I'm really getting worried about you. It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
Luke exhales, long and drawn out, his impatience rapidly changing the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I accidentally stepped in another minefield. Any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why this still surprises me escapes me, but above my worries of offending the man is my own bewilderment. I remember well enough what I saw that night, yet he says completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Miss Pink!
Kylie's sobs reach my ears first when her familiar weight is around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it. Her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft and not exactly and enough to not attract attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside the rooms by now. Anyway, those that still linger, though, watch our little group with a great interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle on the situation, I have a feeling Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping her tears, creating little trails on her cheek. Her mouth is drawn in a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie, calm down. What happened?
It's my friend!
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods and immediately clams up after, letting sobs communicate the story instead. Or as much of her shaking... Oh, God. Aaron, no! Not again! Why? Why now? Okay. Letting her sobs communicate the story instead, or as much of her shaking much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff, whilst he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling crying children. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters the strength to talk, her cries subsiding to mere sniffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
Another nod.
She won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Career Day's going to start soon. I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us for good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her, too. She and Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Just a little childish argument then. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children, and I won't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. Honestly, I admire my colleagues who willingly took on the challenge. Normally, I'd leave this for their homeroom teachers to fix, but I can't ignore an imploring look she shoots me. It's another weakness I'll have to steel myself against before I ever think of having my own. For now, I'll give in to it.
Okay, tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us, even with the small distance between us. In between, his apprehension is palpable. Understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, it's just that part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? Alright, let's save again. I get the feeling we're moving towards something. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna play. Probably maybe another hour. I think I might have another hour. At least another 30 minutes. We'll see. Callie escorts us to the adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and rooms lining its side are empty, save for a gentle rustle of leaves and the twittering of birds outside and the tapping of our foot against the floor. Yeah, I think There are minor typos here and there, and I don't know if it's just like a difference in British writing versus our writing, but yeah, feet, our feet, that bothers me. Our feet against the floor. The whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual though. This part of the building is reserved for club activities at the end of the school day, and with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for this to be deserted. Come afternoon, right after classes, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end headed straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait at the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie calls right after me, usually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made the turn down the hallway, she stops sniffling and starts singing the tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Probably to calm herself, or maybe it's her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remark on it, however. It's all part of growing up. They say, let her learn. The door is slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside, the sobbing girl's echoes weakly, barely audible in this kind of hush. It turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the endearing things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no sign of abating. They only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I stand, it sounds a lot more like she's in some sort of kind of pain. And it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fear of reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo furthest from the classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, distinct sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door, someone crying on the other side. My calls ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation before it doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for the child beside me, this thick undercurrent of worry trickling into my stomach. I take one last breath and then I nudge the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light foot shuffles behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat, and when I turn,
Kylie?
oh fuck! Kylie's been possessed. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this.
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks, or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it's not one of those that triggers a memory. It's those chilling eyes, calling, beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once the memory returns to me. A tide that has receded now and turns to the shore of overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago. A world passing by in a blur and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week had passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on this child before me, They return in such an unbearable clarity. There is no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down no blood streaming down the pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a small twisted smile. They brim with teeth, they brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child. Sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck. You're a bad person. You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die. Can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again. Judging. Mocking. Taunting. Each scathing word rings sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill sets at the tip of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath and a sudden struggle for air and freedom, the coils wrap around my body, tightening, dragging me down. A gradual, torturous descent into another bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me.
Till the darkness claims me in. Unexpectedly, a note. In the distance, a harsh piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I don't have all morning to wait for you two.
My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. And then I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger, no vile hatred in them. Just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I'm becoming aware of my surroundings, and myself as warmth steadily creeps back into me. I reach out for the nearby counter to steady myself as my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip is on them. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing becomes out short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hand, unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I could speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting my insides in anticipation. Of what? I am no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break off in a run. Brushing off the anxious looking, the look that Kylie gives me, I gently push her away on my way out. Or the furrows of Luke's brows as I stumble into him. Outside. Whatever they both saw on my face, I don't care to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. The tremors continue long after my last class of the day is ended. Although none of my students seem to have commented on, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances every time a pen slipped from my hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see a normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You'd think being on my fourth cup of tea would have provided some sort of comfort. Or has it been the fifth? Egad, why does counting matter now? The fact I can't easily shake it off off this time should tell me something. Last time this happened, I passed it off as some lapse in my part, after having been sick for a week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories, centuries-old lures passed by locals to keep children in line. What place does those have those? One of my dad's books even went as far to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants. Women who feed on unborn children straight from their mother's womb, or hell, there's even a story about a demon baby. All folklore that had never had a smidgen of truth in it, most properly to scare off natives there back in the old days. Oh god, water. Seriously, hers has got so much reading in it. Man, I've almost gone through my entire thing. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is full of is more universal than people care to think. But looking at that from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after the things that I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there really are more, there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
Yeah, she's been right. A terrible thing is true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon, the ringing of my mobile phone takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up and my brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, it's hard to remember when I've entered this person into my contact list. It takes a moment. When it clicks, my eyes zeroes in on the book lying on the... Oh yeah, that's right. They met at the library. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end, she'd given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I completely forgot about it till now, and well, I really haven't taken a peek at it until today. Normally, I'd be done with a whole volume this size in a few days after taking it out. About 1 or 2, depending on how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read it through it has been difficult lately, more difficult lately than I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheet and attending a movie premiere, and the next someone's suddenly invited me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend stopped showing up at her flat, and right now, worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and to get grips on things. I have been flipping through the pages of the books moments ago, though never really reading anything, merely hoping for a distraction. To no avail. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I did not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello. Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon. Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask someone you've just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious about where she's heading with this by starting with that.
Born and raised, 3rd generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite, if I'm going to teach about but a family friend would be a better person to ask.
No. God damn it, I keep doing that. I wasn't trying to skip past that. There we go.
Quite, if I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected it lead to this. She must not have lived here long if she's just asking about it now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella. Superstitious down to the last hair. Though it won't be far off to think Mariana's only started to think about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this.
Must have been the sunny weather. It makes me sick to see see stupid things. See things?
No, wait. It's all right. I don't mind.
There's a moment's pause before she responds again. She's right in that. It's a silly thing to talk about, especially when what I assume two people who are pretty grounded in their beliefs in this regard to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, all right. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna forget because this has all got to come together, and I get feeling it comes together a little bit in ashes.
My lips will be sealed.
Sealed until they have to be.
Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place is past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary. From the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago to who had it built. Up to the point it gets deserted after the last heir's death, and the death was passed on to the Ermengarde's, and the deed was passed to the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished even. These are nothing she probably hasn't heard before, yet there's dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
All there really is to it?
as far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
Actually, I'd like to hear about Lady Charlotte.
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories?
God, somebody just admit that they've seen her. Just admit it already, please. You guys have been dancing around this so hard.
Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort from the tea I drank is given me prior, instantly drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold turns into a firm grip. The whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know?
You're really doing a bad job of laughing this off, Marianne.
By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
I'm so sorry I sound like a crazy woman. That's what she's thinking right now. She ends the call abruptly with only a clip's goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser. In the light of what little I've gleaned from that conversation, I don't think Marianne's lying about her intent. Her intent is genuine. I'd give her that, but she left out a lot of things. I get the sense she's only asked because, oh wow, that's really bright lighting. Jeez. Sudden thunderstorms in the south. 1 second, I actually need to check my roof. This says fun like a leaky ceiling. Anyway, nothing I can do about it tonight, so. I get the sense she's only asked because something's happening around her too, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in it. All of these are just assumptions, no concrete conclusions to be formed with what we have. And if we want to find out what we're dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more to those stories, and as absurd as it sounds, the very place that they gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. And tomorrow night, I have a few hours and a chance to visit, a chance at a housewarming party. Totally not exciting though, since the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around it. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay as I step out of the room and ready to put it into this day. However, all those good vibes disappear into thin air when I run headfirst into Luke. There really is something in this man. Regardless of how my opinions of him have changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him without a care or thought. Yeah, that's the atmosphere, man. No, seriously, there's a serious thunderstorm that just rolled in, and I wasn't expecting it. So yeah, you're probably gonna hear some thunder. It's pretty serious lightning outside, but I got nothing better to do, and my internet's still working, so whatever. Doesn't even need to open his mouth. His mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belated, I noticed his hand. Partly raised, poised for a knock. At the slightest lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. He's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air in the way he's moving his arms. Though I think he's trying to urge her to speak
Munchkin,
up.
I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Teal.
I think we're good here.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows it's a losing battle. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old, throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration is promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it even slips his
You,
lips.
come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause followed, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of pain, physical pain. You'd think a man getting an aneurysm was simply by simply being polite.
Please?
Tio said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton get along famously in that department. On a different front, the offer for a free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given, that is. Mostly because Kylie has wildly put on her puppy eyes, and by the second, I'm feeling my choices slipping away from
See,
me.
Miss Pink? It'll be fun.
That poor baby thinks she did something wrong.
You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mumble buzzes in my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared the act of giving an answer as I'll regret either way. Fishing out the gadget, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself, a disgruntled expression on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I said if it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? I check and message from Ashton shows up. Hey Becca, I'll be around Samuel this evening. I need to meet someone in the area. Might have to drop by your place and Bella's place after. See ya. The usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he'll drop by or he's in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds like the latter. Either way, I'm glad to see he was at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabel's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed, if he ever pulls the same stunt he does on the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back in my pocket, looking up to see Luke's utter impatience, and now I face a different dilemma. Two of them are still waiting, and knowing what kind of person Luke is, it's already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denial aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie and his actions alone. I kind of hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
That is a good question. Do I go or do I not go? That's the question. Do we want to go with him is the question. On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or he's expecting me to be there. But there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. But inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this weekend, well, Ashton has been my first choice to come from the start. Even if he detests gatherings like this. It's company that counts, and we can be miserable together. That's the problem, isn't it? He hates them. It's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. And if by some miracle he agrees, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not a really tough choice when you put it like that, but still. Tough choice, I'll enter. I really would hate to make the kid feel bad. Yeah, I think it's time for her to start giving it. Yeah, I'd hate to make the kid feel bad. We're gonna make Kylie happy this time. In the end, it's my own fondness for Kylie that wins out. Chances are I only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If that lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse and suddenly call for a sudden call from a friend or things at work. It doesn't seem too so bad when I think about the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair and we're both eager to get rid of it. I'm leaning more towards the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me in a hug before she pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Tio doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance.
Yes, you are.
May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
I think it was only fair. She was protecting a child.
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick. You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly, I pause and stare at it. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers like usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow, I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing. And amidst this newfound friendship, dare I call it that, Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Of all the places near the school, Kylie picks this one and waiting for the food to be served, and it's as awkward as I managed it to be. Not the bad sort though, the pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke is an okay bloke when he tries. So as long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks, or we don't say exaggerated quips, we're fine. I guess that's what it said. I don't know. Say that again. Screw, he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for the 6-year-old by being chattier, even going so far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. An interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his frequent cheesed off expression easing when he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep. She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He said he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see at some point some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to the nearby bookshelves, having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about, aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, he does veer into local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed in that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jib. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though, and it's too early for those. And besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. It's better to keep strictly between silence and casual repertoire. God, words. The whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. Quite sure he feels the same. So when another bout of silence hits us and it becomes just too much, I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile, I turn it in my hands while we wait for our respective meal. But it'll be a complete laugh if I say I'm not wanting some intervention, someone to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashton probably in Samwell by this time, working on whatever his business has. Maybe if he makes up an excuse, if I make up an excuse, I can leave now and still catch him.
Cut that out. It's distracting.
My hands still, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-passing by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now after complaining about how appalling the tea they serve here. Before that, he has whined about how uncomfortable the chair is and that the tasteless decorations they have here. Previous to that, he has griped about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequents in the upper class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants. Figure he'll lose patience soon and having already grumbled about almost everything his eye can reach. It's unfortunate he has turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
Bobfuck? Do I even want to ask?
I don't want to hear it. It's coming out of his mouth and it can only either be rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face? True horror.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap. Preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here,
For whatever reason, this puts an end to the talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found a particularly interesting picture book, and is now poring over it while I turn back to my mobile. Still no messages. Would it kill him to at least send a message? Check if I went home? Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts about 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got the immature act down packed, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood?
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, all right? 1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry. What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, I didn't realize this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer.
I hate this guy.
Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
He's not my boyfriend!
The words came out with more force than I intended. By the time I realized my slip-up, his lips are already smeared into a sneer. Heat slowly crawls up my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Only about that. Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know, but the next second he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. At that moment, I know I flipped the switch in him somewhere, and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason I've been so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message from him? For some reason, to dump this awkward meeting to go after him.
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush. The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush.
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity, because he might misinterpret it.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
You are such a tool, man.
Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with. Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers. Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you?
Isn't that a pretty normal relationship, though? I mean, not the losing sleep part, but I mean, you know, you spend the majority of your time with the person you want to be with.
Or putting everything you have aside to please them.
I mean, she's
That
been
your
doing that for
whole
you, you
world revolve
jackass.
around one person.
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't lump everyone together just because it didn't work out for you.
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you? Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for a dashing Prince Charming? What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs?
Dozens is a bit much, homie.
How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said. And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head. Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
I avert my eyes from him as I manage to do. Wait, what? I definitely did not read that right. I avert my eyes from him, that's all I managed to do. What does this mere 7 years have compared to the 17 I've had with Ash? You seriously have not had a relationship. You've known him for 17 years. You have not had a relationship with him for 17 years. And you're probably never going to have a relationship with him because he's definitely got his eyes on somebody else. And you need to let it go. I know the feeling though. I've been on the other end of an unreciprocated relationship. It's laughable he thinks those two things are even comparable. Ash and I may have never moved past the boundaries of friendship like what I was hoping for years, but what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. And I've always been by his side, endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. And yet...
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20...
His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, eventually picking apart everything I would ever been sure of. Despite myself, despite the doubts resurface and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes, it's no wonder he sees through me. As expected, he ridicules it. Laughs, restrained, low rumbling, a sharp sound striking the air around us amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of music playing around our heads. His shoulders shake when his mirth becomes too much even for him. He reaches a hand and passes it over his face, as if holding his close to him.
Bloody bullocks, this is just brilliant.
He's such a dick.
Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter, but when it subsides, he has for me are more words, scathing each one of them. The urge to run from here has never been this strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act, if that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe?
That's what you expected your wife to do.
Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time, never looking at another man. You must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meets me with a sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because there's something I won't let his opinions trample on is this. What does he know? However, he's the one who looks away, focusing his eyes back on where Kylie is, and for a moment I believe I won. Until he draws a breath and turns back to me. The words he dropped next, though hushed, hang heavily in the distance between
You're
us.
right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges in my heart. Maybe it is the manner. Maybe it's the manner he delivered it, the lack of conceit in his posture, or the underlying insult that the tone takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time, it's him who holds the gaze with mine, against mine. Another unspoken challenge, I realize. If this happened minutes before, I'd have been ready. I'd have already been an equal searing retort on the tip of my tongue. There is none. But the anger is there. Wrinkles at my inside, fighting against the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have long years we've been together. We have the memories. Whenever he needs me, until other people came between us, I've always been the one there. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? I've always been sure of it, that one day you'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the words. What do I want to say to this? You know what? I don't need to answer that. I'm gonna go with that. I don't need to answer that. And something changed. Man, Luke really likes me. I don't particularly like that. However, those are for me to ponder on. This Aris doesn't need to hear them, and neither is he entitled to them just because he dished out some profound sounding life wisdom no one asked for. So I look away, hoping my own silence would be enough of an answer for him. And it is for a moment, until warm, furious tears sprinkled behind my eyes, stinging, begging for release, along with every other frustration this dumb talk has built up inside of me, all because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact he has to be the one to see me in this story state. I already expect another bar for him when his expression shifts, except he panics. In a span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concern to utter panic. It would have probably been funny if I once were irked by the sight of his Gallic
Are you crying? Are you going to cry? Stop that right now, woman.
Will you shut up?
He clams off almost before I can finish. Whether this is due to the sudden force of my voice or how I look or pretending to not think of it. I pretend to not think of it. He seems like a deer caught in headlights in the way he's making himself smaller in his seat. But I'm still pissed. I'm tired. And if I can't punch him, I can at least scream at him.
You're an annoying bag of dick, you know that?
That's a pretty good insult.
If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth shut myself.
And it does the trick. Not to the effect I've hoped, but the moment I've snapped at him, the stinging at the back of my eyes melts away and a strange calm overcomes me. A fragile thing when found in the middle of a busy coffee shop. Nevertheless, it is appreciated. It's appreciated considering it doesn't last. Immediately broken by the very person that put me in a state of few awkward pats at my shoulder. Done twice, thrice, and another, until my patience runs out and I'm pulling a book from my bag and raising it eagerly over my head, suddenly over my head and gesturing to dent. It'll surely dent his skull if it slams down at this from this height. Part of me wants to see that, but I restrain myself. He has the good sense to recoil, though. Shortly, he shrinks back to his seat and waves his hand in front of him in a gesture of surrender.
Watch that book, woman. I already warned you about your little threats. You don't want to see my brand of angry.
Then keep your hands to yourself.
All right, that's it. People these days, I swear you treat them nicely, and this is where it gets.
You were not being nice. You were being an utter dick, dude. She told you to leave her alone, and you just kept needling at her. Stop it.
You're the last person I'd ever want to comfort me, even if we're the only two remaining people on Earth. Don't flatter yourself.
Okay, have it your way, Daisy.
That's
And stop
not my
calling me
name.
Daisy. I have a name, you know.
He mutters something inaudible under his breath, although afterwards doesn't say anything further. For the next minute, he simply contents himself with making a mess out of paper napkins, folding them into clean squares without any clear intent, before crumpling them in his hand and losing interest in dumping them in a small pile in front of him. The waiter serves our meal soon, and Callie makes her way back to the table. But before I can take a single bite, he mutters something. Words spoken in the same tone he's used since this. Under his breath, well, whenever the honest part of him would show. Despite my rather confused opinion of the man, I stopped short of shoving food in my mouth to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat on his plate. But what comes out from him only rings as true against my ears above the din of the coffee house.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you. Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
Well, I mean, she's not technically in her care. The woman's good. He smears a piece of his food and pops it in his mouth, and that's it. One whole day with this man, and I still can't figure out what his deal is. But for what it's worth as well, I don't think he's entirely a bad guy. The rest of our meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Callie's and occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word, exchanging between the two of us. Good thing, perhaps, today, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and the two of us probably don't have to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out.